a waste if we do not do a proper documentation. Of course, we have the archives for the newspaper and the National Archives, but we are not very good at keeping records. Even your own newspaper, you can produce it today. You are looking for it 2-3 months, it's not there. You go to the National Archives. I've visited the National Archives a long time. I'm looking for this. I still can't find it there. And that is how I thought, well, I think maybe let me just document this and also seize the opportunity to write some of my experiences, outstanding experiences whilst at the post. So that's how in 2014, I think that time I was PS in Northwestern Province, that's how I came up with this idea. So I visited a Fred member one time. I told him I need to write about my experiences, and I would like to refer to some of the materials, basically asking for permission for me to reproduce those conversations that I had. And Fred was very gracious. He says, well, you have to, and if you don't write, who will? Someone who will come and distort the history. So go ahead. And that's how it started.
Here's what I find fascinating about the book, and you're right when you say, history and the way that we put together and document our history is very bad. And so I have two parts to this question. The first part is, do you think that this was the right time, to publish a book like this? That's question one. Question two, again, is in line with the times that we're in. Because a lot of these stories, for many young people, for example, like myself, so I'll talk about myself. I may sound old, but I'm actually very young. So there are some stories in here that I was not aware of. I had brief sort of surface knowledge, but I didn't have deep knowledge. And I wonder whether this book comes at the right time for this young generation, to try and understand some of the important people that have been in our history.
Well, maybe I can say it's long overdue.
Yeah.
I may not even call it the right time. Yeah. It's long overdue. Even myself, when I interact with these senior citizens, each time I interact with them, I pick something new. They don't say everything. They have lived their lives for a lot, so they have a lot of information. And some of the information they have, they may not even consider it crucial, critical, or even that significant. And so that is the challenge. So what we need to do is to continually document. And I liked the response. I think Pilato had come to our big book launch, and I think I was seeing something that he has posted documenting what the short interview he gave to Costa. He was asked if he was also going to write about it. He gave a very interesting response. He said, yes, he will write the book at an appropriate time, but in the meantime, we should read it as he lives it, and then read it later once he documents it. But we need to document at every stage and just update, because you might think that you will write in future. We are not in charge of our own lives, and that is why I like my favorite scripture. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Jeremiah, which I have highlighted. If you just go to the flap, Jeremiah 10:23. It does not belong to man who is walking even to direct his step. And so we can't tell. We are not in charge of our own lives. Even just when we are walking, we are not the ones who are making those steps. The one who created us is. And so you can't say, I'll write in this year, I'll write when I'm that. Who tells you you'll be there? So write something so that even if something happens tomorrow, you're not there, someone else will build up. If you don't document, that will be lost. You can imagine when we started with the Manawasa book, the first one, I started the actual interviews with him started in April. By August, he fell ill and we lost him. Now, if I was waiting for an appropriate time, all that which I recorded could have been lost. So the long and short of it is that we need to write continually and just do updates.
Is there part two of this book, by any chance?
Yes, there is.
So there's going to be a part 2.
There is going to be the second edition. As you will see, we only have 45 conversations.
Yes,
here.
And that's what I was wondering, because you mentioned, former President Mwanawasa, but there's no chapter. And I wondered whether that was just by design or you just chose not to include.
It was by design, because I knew that the second edition was coming, and I wanted to mix the interviews in the first edition, and so that the first and second edition are just as good. Okay,
so there's a lot more that I want to talk to you about, the post and some of these stories. But I want to bring in Dr. Caleb Fundanga, who is here with us as well. He's a subject in the book, Dr. Fundanga. So again, I said that there's a lot that I want to talk to you about, the economy, past, present, future as well, if you allow us to. But in 2018, so the story from Mr. Malupenga begins by saying, in January 2008, the occasion to profile Dr. Caleb Fundanga, who was then Bank of Zambia governor. In his view, it was scandalous for Zambia to continue as a poor country when it is abundantly endowed with rare natural resources. That hasn't changed.
Unfortunately.
Yes, it hasn't changed. We are still, a lot of this quote from 2008 is still true today. But poverty hasn't changed.
It is true today, just as it was at that time. And we seem to be going around circles, really. At that time, when he interviewed me, we were very optimistic. I think I had, at that time, been at the central bank for about 4 years, and we had come from a very difficult situation. And our currency had strengthened. Inflation for the first time was single digit, and the economy was growing between 6 to 7%. So I was very optimistic that if we continued along this trajectory, we surely could be able to. And a lot of countries were looking to us as a country which, although as you see from the interview, I was saying that although we were growing at that rate, China was growing at 10% and above, and it still was struggling to absorb all the unemployed. But that was our target, that if China can grow at 10% and we were at 6-7%, we could move there and be able to do a lot more. But as you know, everything is history. Things get reversed, and I think even in the interview I had emphasized the point that it may take long for you to address some of the constraints to development. But if you look the other way, very quickly, all the gains can be lost. And I think this is true today. We had just come out of debt forgiveness at that time. And I think it was that international goodwill which had made it possible for us to start growing, because the money we used to spend on debt service was now going towards investing in social sectors and infrastructure and so forth on our own. So with that optimism, I was pretty sure that we could probably also be like the other countries, the Singapores of this world, but it didn't happen. I left the bank in 2011, and very soon inflation was shooting up, the kwacha was losing value, and all this kind of thing. So it's exactly what I had predicted would happen if you stop focusing on the critical issues that need to be addressed.
Which are what? What are those issues? Well, if you go back into time, what were those issues?
Clearly, the most important thing is that we must not spend money which we don't have. Even in a home, if you can just spend money which you have, you'll be able at least to run your affairs properly. And when we came out of indebtedness, that was a key issue. You had borrowed too much, you were unable to pay, but the world has forgiven you. And so going forward, you must make sure that you run your finances properly. And this we did not do, because you saw very quickly our indebtedness again started to increase. And today, we are in a similar situation where, again, we are asking for international goodwill to cancel our debt. So those are the things which you must never forget. Issues like we must feed ourselves. This country is well endowed with land. We are very lucky population-wise compared to a lot of other countries. We are not a very huge population. We have a lot of land. We've got a lot of water. Our weather, our rainfall is not bad, but we can also do irrigation. A lot of crops can grow in this country. but we're not doing it. So you see, like now this year, there is a shortfall, although I think we'll still manage to feed ourselves, but it shouldn't be like this, because even when the rains are not enough, we have got climatic zones. The north, they always have more than enough. There are certain parts of the country that might have shortfalls. So it's a question of how we manage our affairs. When you read all these stories of stolen money and all this kind of thing, the non-existing universities, those are the issues that we should focus on. But when we have money, we should spend it productively, not to waste it on lining up people's pockets. So those are the issues we were discussing at that time. Yeah. There's
a question that Mr. Malupenga asks you in the book and in your interview from 2008, and I'm going to ask it to you so that you can tell us all. Because here's the thing, I don't know if you know this, but everyone thinks that they can be a Bank of Zambia governor. I don't know if that's the worst part about doing your job. But you know, when the kwacha depreciates, everyone has these ideas. No, they should just do this. No, they should just do that. So here's the question that he asked you then. He says, a lot of people said the appreciation was artificial. This is the appreciation of the kwacha.
The kwacha, yes.
What was the secret then? Is there anything that we can learn from then that those who think they can be governors
there was no... There was no secret, really. It's just that we were running our affairs properly. We had put in place, after the debt was cancelled, it meant that we now had slightly more foreign exchange than was the case before. And we had in place a system for allocation. You know, I want to emphasize this because sometimes we think that it is the scarcity of foreign exchange which leads to the country's exchange rate deteriorating, but it is the way the foreign exchange is accessed by the people. We had at that time auctioning of foreign currency. When I got to the bank, the central bank was the center of, and I think we tried to address this in the interview. Everybody was focusing on the exchange rate arising from the Bank of Zambia auction, but foreign exchange was also being transacted in the interbank market. The only thing was that if you want to sell more than $100,000, you had to take to Bank of Zambia. If it was less, you could transact in the interbank market. Now, everybody thought the Bank of Zambia rate was the more important, and it's the rate to beat. So what most of people were doing was like, if you want to sell 150, you broke it down into 75, so that you don't go to the Bank of Zambia auction, because they thought you could get a better rate. Now, that resulted in a situation where the actual foreign exchange being transacted through the BOZ auction was just a tiny fraction. But yet that was the focus. The resulting foreign exchange was the focus for everybody. So we debated this with colleagues, and we agreed that the best thing was just to have a unified market where everybody would be eating from the same pot. Then whatever was going to result from there, people are not going to be accusing the Bank of Zambia of having done whatever and so forth. And when we did this, there was now enough foreign exchange to be transacted in the interbank market, and you saw the rate starting to appreciate. Now, because people had grown up with this notion that the kwacha always gets beaten, nobody could believe that for a change the kwacha could also beat the US dollar. So that's why you see those sentiments that no, there must be something, this can't be real. Yet you see the whole idea about market determined price is precisely that supply and demand play the critical role, and you can have a situation where perhaps the price will be going up or it can be going down depending on the market forces of supply and demand. And this is the lesson that eventually people got to know. I know that even today we are not in the same situation we were in the earlier years when everybody was looking to the Bank of Zambia, because even when there is a shortage, people are transacting. You can go to your bank and buy your foreign exchange. Whereas when there is just one market, you go to that market, they will tell you there is nothing. And that leads to frustration, to even insults of what these guys are doing. They are just giving money to their friends and things like that. You don't get those accusations today. So the design of the market was very important. And I think the same is true for every other commodity. You know, we used to have shortages of bread during the earlier years of our independence. Now, you ask yourself, why are we having shortages of bread? Obviously, at that time, there was only Superloaf. I don't know if you
No, I don't remember Superloaf.
There was only one giant baking company in the country, and everybody, sometimes they could produce bread with bits of sacks in it, and we were queuing up for that bread. The people were not easily allowed to produce bread. This is now history, right?
Yes.
You can go to
every
supermarket is producing bread, and you can choose what you want, and there's nobody who is being restricted. This is what you should, our market should be designed so that there is maximum participation, and you get the best result. You can go to Kalingalinga and buy your bread. You can go to Kavlonga and buy your bread. That's the way it's supposed to be. But when you are choosing who produces, you are choosing winners and losers. You shouldn't do that. Immediately you do that, there are problems. We had cooking oil. I know that the price of cooking oil is very high at the moment. Yeah, but at that time, it was not so much that you had money. Even if you had money, you wouldn't get cooking oil. We had a crazy situation where if you went into town, you found a queue. You did not even ask what was selling at the end of it. You just, whatever it is, it must be useful. These people are queuing for it, and you queued. How much time were we losing? Instead of doing productive things, you are just busy queuing up even for things that you didn't need. So these are issues about how you design your economy. If you want to be interventionist, you must be able to live with some of the consequences of an interventionist policy.
Would you say that at the time that you were governor of Bank of Zambia, that yours was more about intervention than anything else?
No, there was, during our time, we were moving away from an interventionist framework. We are trying
Even though you were still putting these roadblocks around, getting the inflation rate low, appreciation of the kwacha, that isn't, you wouldn't consider that as...
The inflation was not fixed. You see, inflation was obviously determined by availability of goods and services. If they are not available, price will be bid up. If they are available, price will come down. The same applies to the foreign exchange. If foreign exchange was available, then the exchange rate would be favorable also. But if it was not available, it would be bid up. So that is the market structure we are all trying to put in place. You recall that we are coming from a commandist economy, and it took a long time to actually clear things up, even though reforms had started in the early 1990s. By the time I was getting to Bank of Zambia in 2002, there were still elements of that. And this is the reason why when we set up the financial sector development plan, we actually intended to see that all those bottlenecks, the relics of the past, could be addressed through these reforms. And we did it by engaging everybody involved in the financial sector so that it's not just Bank of Zambia determining, but the key players giving us ideas on how best some of these things could be addressed. There are a lot of problems. For instance, the delinquency in the financial sector, people borrowing money and not paying back.
Yeah, I heard that I didn't actually understand what you meant when you said delinquency in this interview.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what the meaning is?
Well, you see, again, what we had when you had a lot of financial institutions controlled by the state and so forth, people would borrow, and depending on your standing in society, if you are well connected, probably you could skip paying back what you borrowed, and there would be no consequences. So the more of the proliferation of state-owned institutions you had so many. There's a long list of institutions created after the opening up of the financial sector, and people just used to borrow from there. But regrettably also, even when we had a lot of new privately owned banks, delinquency was still the order of the day. Most of the people who own these banks would just give money to their members of their families, their friends, and even if they were not credit worthy, and they would not pay back. So a lot of banks collapsed. I've just been doing a small chapter for a book we are doing with the Oxford University Press. It's an Oxford handbook on the Zambian economy, which hopefully might come back out next year. I think this week we sent the manuscript to Oxford University Press, who have been generous enough to to publish at no cost to us. They omit the cost. This one of encouraging scholarship and so forth. That one we are talking mostly people have been commissioned to write papers on aspects of the economy, agriculture, mining, and so forth and so on. So me, I did a little bit on banking. And when you look at what happened during that period when the banking sector was liberalized, everybody thought they could just establish a bank, collect money from people and start spending it. Of course, the consequences were the banks collapsed, a lot of people lost their little savings and so forth. But at that time, part of the problem was the weak regulatory structure. The central bank, at one stage, the licensing of banks was at the Ministry of Finance. So part of the reforms were to move the licensing of banks to the central bank, where they could apply the international standards for registering new banks and the like. So all these were part of trying to put things together. Today, I think if there is a problem in a bank, the central bank is well equipped to know that there is a problem in that bank, and if necessary, to take immediate steps to try and arrest the rot.
Okay. Yeah. I want to read you a quote from 2008 from this interview. This, by the way, is in the book Conversations with Memorable People by Amos Malupenga, who's also here with us in the studio. This is on employment. You say, one can argue that if we want to create employment, agriculture is the way to go. Not so much the mines, because technology is fast advancing, so less human power will be required to work on the mines. But we have so much land in this country which can be utilized for agricultural production. However, we have to do things first. You can't settle someone in the jungle and expect that they'll be prosperous. Those are the challenges, but we're so lucky as a country. If there's one country that got favored so much, it is Zambia.
True.
Nothing has nothing has changed.
Well, nothing seems to have changed. That's why sometimes, development is a very challenging undertaking. You may know that if I take this route, I will certainly reach where I want to go. But sometimes there are obstacles down the way. Some of the obstacles created by yourself. Certainly, if you just take somebody in the jungle, they are not going to develop that jungle into a very prosperous. So something has to be done. You see, you have to provide the roads infrastructure to ensure that people can actually reach the places. The inputs can go there, and they can produce, and the produce can reach the market. And now, that is the stuff which is often done by governments. So the government has to play a facilitative role by ensuring that part of that infrastructure is in place. But then also allow other key players to play their roles. Let those who can go and sell fertilizers and seed go to there, because they can take it because there is a road now. But look at our roads infrastructure in this country. It's completely gone. Even the railways, they are gone. They've been there, donated by China and those we inherited from the colonialists. But we have just allowed them to rot. It is not only very expensive things like roads and railways. Look at the post office, an institution which I love so much, and I've written about it in this chapter I'm talking about. The post office, for me, was the instrument for financial inclusion, because it was everywhere. You could go to Kasempa, you find the post office there. And you could go and to any post office and open a bank account, and you could go to any part of the country and withdraw the money. The commercial banks were not doing that. You had to go to the branch where you were. But we had this even at the time of independence. I always boast that when I was at secondary school in Mumbwa, I opened my first post office savings account, and I could actually even order things from the UK, a mail order. And they could send the things to me whom they didn't even know, to my Mumbwa post office. And they would just tell me, okay, your goods have arrived, can you come and pay so much, and you collect. These things used to happen. Today, it's, we are trying to recreate what used to happen before. We are saying people cannot open financial inclusion, they can't open bank accounts. But we had an environment where you could open a bank account in the rural areas or anywhere. One time when I was doing some research, when I was a student at the university, I was in Karichero in the Eastern Province. Each time when I needed money, every Wednesday, a truck mobile bank used to come to Karichero, stops by the road to Mfue, and I would go and withdraw my money. It's like magic today. But these things did exist. So one of the things about development is not to destroy what you find, but to build onto what you have found, what you have inherited. But here, the tendency is to destroy. And I've seen this even in institutions. You can start something, immediately you look the other way, they will abolish it. Because we tend to think that to progress is to show that you have started something new which did not exist. That is not the idea. Most of these developed countries, you see, they are living in houses which are 400 years old. Here, how old is the oldest building in Lusaka? Now, obviously, we are not building onto what we have inherited. Sometimes we are destroying. I was reading the story the other day that Lusaka Playhouse. Yes. There was a bad story about that which almost made me cry. But this is happening everywhere. You find the post office in Lusaka here, the main post office. The other time I went there, I was so annoyed because I've got a post office box. I was trying to get used to it. Then I found that outside is a toilet now for these street kids. And so I went to these chips. But look, you must be ashamed. You inherited a very nice post office building here, and you have deliberately allowed these kids to turn it into a toilet. How do I get my letters? So somebody went and collected my letters. That's the last time I visited that place. I don't care whether I don't get any mail from there. But this is the tragedy of our country. That post office is very strong, built with very strong material during the colonial times. Beautiful stuff. And there are beautiful post offices all over. You can go to Livingstone, you can go to Kabwe, you can go to Ndola. Nice buildings we inherited.
This is the technology you talk about.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it. You mentioned technology. The technology is fast moving.
Yeah.
And the post office, unfortunately, has been left behind.
It has been left behind, but we have caused this problem ourselves. I know that mail, for instance, the sending of letters, that business is out now. Yeah, because you can send your emails, you can send whatever, WhatsApp, you can do all sorts of things. So that line of business has gone, and you have to recognize that it's gone. But there are a lot of other things. The same post office used to have the telecommunications department, which was hived off. Okay, but that is the new technology now. Maybe we should have just tried to beef it up. And when this new technology came, the post office was the only one which had its own base stations. The others were trying to put up some base stations here, and it already had started off with a distinct advantage. But where has it taken them? They are now lagging behind those that didn't have the infrastructure. We must blame ourselves. So in the mines, coming to the mines, I had a brief stint as a miner when I left in 1972. As I was waiting for my university results, I joined Mufurila mine. But I was not going underground. I was in the laboratory as a staff learner ASEA. And there were a lot of us who were working in Mufurila at that time. The laboratories going underground and so forth. If you go to Mufurila now, there are very few people who are working there because the technology has changed. Most of those jobs which were there have gone now. They might even be producing more copper than during our time, but the technology has changed. So you can't expect more jobs in the mining industry, even if we increase our production to 3 million metric tons per annum. We probably will not have jobs. But it's not something that we should look at as a disadvantage. It just means that the proceeds from the mining industry can go somewhere to create other jobs in sectors which are capable of absorbing more labor. But if we insist that everybody must go and work in the mines, then you have a problem. How are they going to be paid? Because they will not be creating any new wealth. Even if you pack them in there, there won't be any additional wealth that they can create. But the opportunities for us are many. But even within the mining sector, we can you've seen, for instance, now that there is copper almost everywhere in Zambia. There is gold here. We used to think gold was only for South Africa, for Ghana, and so forth. But probably if we harness it properly, we could even have greater potential than some of these traditional gold exporting countries. So why are we in this situation? Maybe we are not invested a lot in exploration. If you can only discover what is there, if you have invested in discovering what minerals you have, So we have not done that, and we are paying the price for that. And then what happens when you discover that is there's confusion? People are just starting to mine in a very unregulated environment. That's sad. I was reading the other time, somebody made a comment that in Zambia, the foreigners are fighting to establish mines here. The Zambians are fighting for the Black Mountain. Now you have to ask yourself, why is it happening like this, that we can only fight for the Black Mountain, the rubbish which they left, yet we have had so many years of experience as a mining country. We have trained, I know so many mining engineers myself, and all sorts of other skills, and they are just languishing, waiting to be employed by some foreign miner. Some of these countries that came here don't even know how to go and dig copper from underground. As a result, they were employing South Africans to come and dig the copper for them. But we've got Zambians here who have been working underground there all these years. So somewhat how we organize our economy in order that we can exploit the opportunities, I think is very key. Why is it not possible that you can even get these Zambians together, give them some, organize some capital? It doesn't have to be a loan from Zambia. I'm sure internationally there's a lot of money. If you can pack them together and say, look, these are experienced miners, they have a mine which they can exploit here, give them 100 million to buy the equipment they need. They'll be producing more than 100 million per annum. I'm sure there will be some venture capitalists somewhere who will come and say, I want to stake my money on this knowledge, and that's what everybody else is doing. I see, even all these Chinese you see here, they've never been miners. Some of them were just traders. Today they are running mines here. So what is wrong with us? So this is a challenge to all of us. I'm not saying that there is anybody to be blamed. All of us as Zambians are responsible for this. Because if we don't like it, surely we should have protested by ensuring that it cannot happen. But it's happening here, and we seem to be quite happy with it. And sometimes these people who just come without any knowledge, they are now the ones who are corrupting our own people so that they can divert these resources even more than they had been diverting in the past. Yeah. It's a tragedy. Yeah, it's a tragedy.
I'll let you rest for a few minutes and drink some water. Let me bring back Mr. Malupenga into the conversation. So I want to go back to chapter 1. In chapter 1, you talk about this cartel at the post, right? Yeah. Even though you've documented that there was no cartel, people will always walk away thinking that there was a cartel because there were many beneficiaries, they say. I'm saying what they say, not my opinion. This is what they say, that there were many beneficiaries that benefited from this so-called cartel. Mm-hmm. So there was no cartel, according to you, there was no cartel.
No cartel. But before I answer that question, let me just talk about Dr. Fundanga. Yeah. I deliberately asked Dr. Fundanga to accompany me, and thanks, Doc, for graciously accepting my request. Because I want us as journalists, for a long time we've been challenged that we pay a lot of attention to politics. We are more inclined to cover politics than anything else. Of course, one may argue that politics are more sexy, and for the print media they will make more sales, and for the electronic media they will attract more viewership or listenership. But I thought that we also need to change that narrative as media people to see how we can strike a balance between politics and economics. After all, the politics rest on the base of the economics. When the economics are wrong, we will see the politics will also be affected immediately. But as media people, generally, sometimes we get satisfied when we cover or talk about politics just from the cost of living point of view. But as you can hear from what Dr. Fundanga is saying, there is a lot more we can dig into to cover economics effectively to the benefit of the country. Coming back to the issue of the cartel, and that is why we need to follow the counsel that the guest of honor or the challenge the guest of honor gave us, our former President Edgar Lungu, when he said, let's invest time in writing and reading. And when you read something you don't agree, go and don't fight, but just write. I've written because I've been hearing a lot of stories about or theories. That's why I'm calling it a myth, you know. So I've not argued with anyone else who has held contrary views to the point of fighting and, oh, you are wrong, and this is... I've just documented the reality as I know it, so that those who disagree with me, they can also go and construct their own reality. But the bottom line is, you know, perceptions are strong. In most cases, perceptions are stronger than the reality. And that is why they say a lie that is repeated so many times becomes the truth. And if we don't write, if we don't document history, then we will be giving room for the so many lies today to become the reality tomorrow. And like you say, even after I have written this, others will still not believe.
Yeah.
So if they don't agree with me, let them document their basis for disagreement, so that the next person reading, and that's important for research, they will read their version, read my version, they will form their own opinion. And it will also give them an opportunity for further research. But the long and short of it is that from my experience at the Post, there was no cartel. What was there was the editorial independence. And I think these are the things that we usually do not understand. And for us to achieve that editorial independence, we had to invest more in financial independence. When you are financially sound, you are financially independent, you will report as a journalist as you deem fit. Unlike what is happening now, for a media person to go and cover an event at destination X, Y, or Z, they need to be transported there by the source. Even after the event, they need to be given money back to the base, or even for lunch or something. Those little things will over time reduce or weaken or diminish your editorial independence. And as a result, you will not say it as it is. You will say it as you expect the source to hear it. And in the long run, that will compromise your editorial independence. Now, for the Post, that is why we were accused of being cheeky, being too powerful, because we said it as it were. Why? Because we didn't depend on any source to finance our operations. Even when we had our own financial difficulties, we still had to survive. There were periods which were rough. We could go for months without salaries, but we learned to survive within. You know, we didn't look up to the market to finance our operations. And because of that strength, we were able to tell off a president when we thought the president needed that. Just like we were able to praise the president when we thought he needed, he deserved the praise. But each time we were very critical of a president, and I'm giving the presidency as an example because that is the highest office. There were so many others along the way who were dealt with similar. When we were so critical, then we were a cartel, because we wanted to push the president in a corner so that he could do things our way. When we praised, again we were in bed with that president at that time. But for us, we gave credit when it was due, just like we offered criticism when criticism was due. So there was no cartel. And that is why when you read the book, you will see instances where we seem to be in bed with Manawasa. The next time we are fighting, you will read this, we appear to be in bed with Sata. The next time we are fighting. Why? We had beliefs and principles which never shifted. But the reality, for example, if you talk about our support for Manawasa, it was based on certain principles. And Fred, who was our leader, or the president of the Bunjimfum government.
Do you think, so when I was reading the first 5 chapters, this is the memoirs of your time at the Post, there's something that struck me that I said I need to ask you. And this is some time back. So this is a while ago now. And at the time, there weren't many print newspapers. I could be wrong. I think it was just the Times, the Daily, and the Post, and maybe there was one other smaller paper.
No, there were others which were,
but they're not as it is now. Not as it is now.
It's the same situation even now, because if you look around the market, the regular ones, basically it's the Daily Nation, Diggers, the Must, and then you have the Times and Daily Mail. Outside that, you can think of 1 or 2. I think is it Rainbow? Others are weekly; they are not daily, and others you see them now.
But but at the time, was the Post the only private newspaper that was daily? And there's a reason I'm going here. I'm going here in the thought that one of the reasons why I think people are very critical of the Post in terms of their dislike, because there are some people who dislike them, and then there are those who mislove the Post. But for many people who dislike, it was this assumption that there was such a big push towards a particular candidate to the effect of compromising the truth. I'm not sure if that the question makes sense.
I know where you are going.
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe let's put it this way. I recall when I was still permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information, you were interviewing me on, I think it was World Press Freedom Day or something like that. Yes. And you asked me a question, is it right for a media institution to endorse a candidate or a political party? And my response then, which I think is still valid even now, is that as a newspaper, you have your mission statement. You can do as you deem fit in line with your mission statement. But there are consequences for whatever action you choose to do. If you choose to endorse a particular candidate or a particular political party, morally, even legally, you are within your mandate. But be mindful of the consequences. Because once you endorse a particular candidate or a particular party, you will be associated with that. Just for argument's sake, if you endorse MMD and its candidate, President Manawasa, and I'm giving Manawasa because he's no longer here so that we don't offend, the public will generally view that newspaper or that media outlet as an extension of that particular party or a mouthpiece of that particular candidate and its party. So all those people who are against that particular candidate and that particular party automatically become your enemies. That's the danger. And that is why for the media institutions, it's always better to be neutral and just side with the public. And siding with the public means reporting events, activities as they occur.
So do you think that was the case with the Post?
Well, over time, I think, again, that's my personal view, just like I've said in this story, in the book, I've given my opinions and views as I experienced and observed them. So I'm at liberty. I can take the liberty to express my personal views since the Post is not there and I'm not speaking for the Post. Even if I was speaking for the Post, I can express the position of the institution and my own view. My view is that it is suicidal for a media institution to side with any political outfit or candidate because you inherit their friends as well as their enemies. If they have got more friends, well and good. But if they have got more enemies, you are risking the business.
Okay.
Let me just also...
Yes, Dr. Fundanga.
I know the first year of the Post's existence, I was a columnist for the Post, together with my late brother Gilbert Mdenda. We were good friends, so we were all young academics at UNZA, so we thought this is a good publication. So we used to write. I used to write on the economy once a week, and Gilbert was writing on the politics and things like that. And it was quite good. Although one time I had a brush with the authorities. I was a civil servant at the time when I was caught up. I wrote something on the destruction of ivory and muzzle loaders. I don't know if you ever heard.
I read about it and heard about it long after you.
It was something which probably put my public service career at crossroads, because there was a reaction from the politicians, and particularly that the article was attributed to a civil servant. And so I got letters to exculpate myself. But there wasn't anything wrong which I wrote. All I was saying was that the destruction of ivory probably wasn't right. There was still a market internationally. We could have sold the ivory and pumped money into the protection of elephants. But we had an NGO from outside the country, Elephant, which gave us, I think it donated some money to entice us to destroy. But I was saying we destroyed more value than what we got as a gift. So why not just fund the fight against poaching using our own resources rather than paying our resources in order to get a small donation from an NGO? The issue went on, then, change of senior officials and so forth. Eventually, when again there was a change at the top in the public service, another complaint came. One of your chaps there had written something in South, which was very insulting. So the person who was my boss said, they are referring to you. So can you just explain what it is? Because they seemed to think that you are insulting. So I explained that when I was saying we should not listen to people who don't know the situation, I was meaning that NGO which was donating some money for us to do something. We should be able to make our own decision. Anyway, I had the seniors who were more understanding, so eventually the matter was closed. But it shows you, because at that time, I felt that even the Post had abandoned me. And I think that was the last article I wrote for the Post, because when it came to that, I remember initially when I wrote the article, they were not very enthusiastic. It's not a very interesting, these sexy stories they always are looking for. They didn't think it was a very interesting story. So, but now when it came out and raised the dust that it did, then that's when they realized. But then I expected that to come to my defense, but they didn't. But
contrast that, Doc, sorry for interrupting you. You remember the Mfuwe article that columnist wrote, Roy Clark, in Mfuwe, and the fact that it raised, and I'm trying to contrast the two columnists.
Mm-hmm. So that's sometimes okay. But personally, I celebrated the coming of the Post on the scene, and that's the reason why I offered to become a columnist, in spite of the fact that I was a public servant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe I can give you another example. Just.
Although I want to take a news break, if you're allowed. Is it a quick story, or we can take? Let's do the news, and then we'll pick up that story. There are many questions, by the way. You'll be happy to know that there are many questions for Dr. Fundanga, as well as for Mr. Malupenga. A lot of them are around the economy. So I'll give you a hint. One of them is around Singapore. The other one is around why it is that we failed to grow the economy. Doesn't matter which government it is, but over the years, we failed to grow the economy as much as we should. That's a quick little hint. We'll be back shortly.
Great news in Dola and Copperbelt Contractors. Davison Zambia Limited brings you quality and affordable ready-mixed concrete, civil works, construction and engineering services. For ready-mixed concrete, Partner with Davison Zambia. We are a wholly owned Zambian company with international standard. Let us support Zambia's economic development and job creation through Davison's use of local human and material input. Like they say, local is laka. If you need high-quality ready-mixed concrete, contact Davison Zambia Limited. We have a proven record of satisfying high-level clients at competitive prices. Order your ready-mixed concrete now via email davisomzambia@gmail.com or call us on 0962 645 383 or WhatsApp us on 0968 493 125. You can also visit us at our plant located at plot number 262 Chiwala Road in the heavy industrial area of Ndola. Davison Zambia Limited. Your right choice for quality and affordable ready-mixed concrete.
The community news.
The headlines: Zimba Council targets to double revenue, and Chama residents bemoan lack of information on CDF. With the community news, I am Paddy Mwagando. Incoming Zimba Town Council Secretary Christopher Siasinyanga has pledged to double the revenue base of the local authority. Mr. Siasinyanga notes that there are so many sources where the council can get resources other than depending on the central government for funds. He says his council will invest in income-generating projects to stop over-dependency on the central government. The chief officer said this yesterday on a conducted tour of council infrastructure, among them Truckyard, which is projected to make 300,000 kwacha profits annually for the local authority. The council secretary, who was accompanied by Zimba Town Council Chairperson Loveness Chigora, Deputy Treasurer George Pupwe, and Council Director of Works Daniel Kayombo, said the council is able to generate extra income from within available infrastructure. Some residents in Chama district in the Eastern Province have bemoaned the lack of adequate information and knowledge on how to access Constituency Development Funds, CDF. Rachel Katietje of Kambombo, who expressed ignorance on how to access the funds, explained that lack of information on the funds has caused non-participation of some ordinary community members to appreciate the important empowerment opportunity that CDF is providing. She observed that the implementations of CDF require an aggressive approach of sensitizing the general public, as it enables them to be at the center of determining their development priorities. And Stephen Kalwe of Mayard Compound noted that CDF is important as it steers development in the communities. To end the community news, the headlines once again. Zimba Council targets to double revenue, and Chama residents bemoan a lack of information on CDF. Ends the community news. Keep listening to Let the People Talk.
The community news.
The Institute of Directors of Zambia will be holding its inaugural annual Corporate Governance Conference and Awards Gala under the theme, Birthing a Better Future Through Good Corporate Governance Practices in the New Dawn Era, at the David Livingstone Safari Lodge in Livingstone from 1st to 3rd June 2022. Speakers will include Professor Heli Singambi, Chibamba Kanyama, David Kombi, and Mukwandi Chibesakunda. Participation fees are, for non-IODZ members, 14,500 kwacha. For IODZ members, 13,750 kwacha. Conference only, 9,500 kwacha. Dinner gala only, 1,000 kwacha. Call the IODZ Secretariat on 0211-237-173 or 0950-686-848 or 0955-764-154 or 0976-282-313.
10:13. Thanks, Paddy. Our guest this morning on Let the People Talk, the author of Conversations with Memorable Personalities, Mr. Amos Malupenga, and Dr. Caleb Fundanga, former Bank of Zambia governor, of course. So there are also questions on our WhatsApp line. Let me start with this. This is from somebody called. Oh yes, sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm very sorry. We have unfinished business. Okay, let's finish the business. Then we can go. I can take Richard's question.
Yeah, I think we are talking about whether or not it's right for a media outfit to endorse or support a particular political party. And I was going to give a practical experience. As I have published this book, some people are asking me to autograph for them, and I met a gentleman at Crossroads who said he wanted me to sign the book. And as I was signing, he said he was a keen follower of the Post from its inception. until it became partisan. Then he abandoned. You see the point I was making. Now, in the view of the Post, maybe they had not even become partisan. Maybe they were just executing their mission statement or editorial or policy, as it were. But depending on how you carry yourself, you may be seen to be siding with this political outfit or the other one. And in the process, you can lose market in terms of readers or buyers or viewers or listeners, which will by and large affect the whole. That is why it is not advisable, although there is nothing wrong morally and legally to endorse a candidate. We see it even in advanced democracies, media outfits. You can tell that they're leaning this side or that side, but you have to bear in mind the consequences of that position.
Maybe in developed countries they lean towards ideologies and not personalities. Maybe.
Yeah, that could be said.
So you already know that this particular entity leans to the left, and so they generally support leftists.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So there's before I go to Richard's question, Dr. Fundanga, there's a question from somebody else. There's no name, unfortunately. And I think he's read the book. And he must have read your chapter as well, because he says, is there any advice for Dr. Fundanga around, getting married? So many young people today are getting married extremely early, whereas he got married at a very old age of 37.
37.
Yes. Is there so I have to ask you, was it...
Well, I think in the interview I did give my reason for marrying late.
Yeah.
I said, as an academic, because I think you were saying, but when you finish your first degree, you should have gotten married. And I was saying, as an academic, I saw my terminal qualification as a PhD. So as long as I didn't do my PhD, I thought I was still a student. So I wanted to finish my studies before I could settle down to start a family. I didn't want to be, I've got a lot of friends. We used to go together to study. They are doing their PhDs with their families and so forth. But for me, I chose, first of all, to finish my studies. And when I finished, I did find my love. But again, I think in the same interview, I did say it's not just a question of marrying. You have to find a partner who you can live with for the rest of your life. And at that time, I had not found one. But when I came, I did find one, my late wife, Rosario. And I think in the interview, I did say a lot of things about her character, which attracted me, our thinking, and how we used to work together on a number of things. So really, there shouldn't be a target that at 18 somebody should get married or whatever. But when you are ready, and even in my case, after I proposed to her, she was going abroad to do her master's degree. She went to South Korea to go and do, she was a silk technologist. So I had to wait also for her to finish her studies. And immediately when she finished, we got married. So I think my advice to any young person that wants to get married is when the time is right. Your right moment might be when you are very young. If you meet your right partner, you should get married. Don't wait, because you might lose that one and never find the right one after that. So it depends on individuals. There are some who get married when they are 40. So there is no prescribed time.
Right.
That's in short.
And others, even when they are 50, I remember in my next conversation, which are coming, I'm featuring the former Minister of Labour, Madam Joyce Inonde Simukoko now. At the time I was interviewing her, she was about 50 years or slightly after 50. And by that time, she was single. And she was telling me that she had never been married and she had no children for all that time. A few years later, after that interview, she got married to our senior lawyer, Mr. Geoffrey Simukoko. So I think I'm trying to underscore the point that
time.
And we have also heard those who have married early. I think most of those marriages have ended up in divorce, because you see, you marry when you are 20, 21, 22, so others even before 20. And then a few years down the line is, we were young, now we can see things clearly. Yeah, no, I think this is not the right partner. They have divorced.
Yeah.
So I think timing is
everything.
also... Yeah.
That's a wonderful question. Thank you for the sexy question. as Mr. Malupenga calls it. Thank you for the sexy question. All right, here's to the hard-hitting questions. So, this is from Richard. Richard says, the reason we have failed to grow our economy is blamed on successive governments. They have deliberately ignored the mechanisms to grow financial accessibility by local people. We cannot manage to compete with foreign entities who borrow from cheaper finance. What we need to do is to be deliberate about such policies. Then he adds, Dr. Fundanga, you're now at ZRA as board chair. Please be deliberate to lead the institution to help Zambian companies grow. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this.
I think, let me just add one thing. Tax revenues are very important. It's one way by which the government can mobilize domestic resources, which we can use to put up that infrastructure which is missing, that school which is not there, buy the drugs which are missing in the hospitals. And if you look at the developed countries, most of them, the tax revenue as a percentage of GDP is very high. Some of them up as high as 30%. Yet, most of our countries, I was looking at the numbers this morning for SADC, I was seeing a number like 16% of GDP. Others, 19%. Zambia is below 20%. So we still have a long way to go in order to raise our own resources to fund our own development. Many of the African governments are always being insulted by the very countries that give us the money. They say, look, this money we give you as aid is the taxpayers' money. Why can't you raise your own? And we have sometimes strange situations where sometimes we give concessions to companies from these same developed countries, and then we demand for too much from our poor people. There is certainly a big debate that we need to have as a nation. I'm hopeful that during this period that I'm at ZRI, we can have public debate on how we should tax ourselves and how our money should be utilized. The issue of our people failing to get the money in order to invest in the economy is real. And I know, for instance, that some of these foreign companies that come here, they borrow very cheaply in their own countries. You know, at the time when we had this situation in the OECD countries when interest rates were sub-zero, somebody could borrow from there maybe at 1% or so and come to invest here. Yet the Zambian has to borrow at 40%. Obviously, if you are in the same competing against that particular company, you can't compete. Now, what can we do to raise our own funding? This is interesting enough. It's an issue I'm trying to address in this book I'm talking about, which hopefully the public will be able to read next year. And I've given again my beloved post office institution, because some years back when I was at the ministry in the government, I went to Japan and I used to spend some time in the treasuries and the other government departments to find out exactly what is the magic, where did you get the money. And I was told that in Japan, and this is true also of Germany, many of the people in these two countries save a lot of money. But the institution that has been used for mobilization of savings in Japan is the post office bank, the very institution which we destroyed here. You can go in the villages, they've got the post office bank and the little savings are being mobilized, and these savings historically were on lent to the Japan Development Bank, which later on funded the Toyotas of this world and so forth and so on. So you can see that some of these traditional institutions have been key to mobilizing financial resources for development. Now, in some countries like Germany, they have got what they call a Landesbank. At least I've got a little bit, I was a student in Germany also. In Germany, they've got the Landesbank. This is like every state has got a bank, which are basically savings banks where people do their savings. And most of the people are encouraged to put their money there because they know that a Landesbank is probably one of the institutions that can give you a loan. It's your own state bank and so forth. Most of these international banks we have, they don't deal with the small people. And if we put our eggs into these banks, we are cheating ourselves that they will finance our development. So it is important to develop local savings institutions which mobilize these resources and which can come and lend to the same communities where they are based. So we lost a chance in my chapter, I've said it was the Post Office Savings Bank was a lost opportunity for financial inclusion. Now, obviously, there were issues about how it was run and things like that. But all I'm trying to emphasize is that if you want to mobilize savings for your own local business people, use local savings institutions rather than international banks. They are not there to give these loans, unfortunately.
Let me take a couple of calls. 22684 0978 895 895. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, thank you.
What's your name?
Yeah, this is Sydney.
Okay, Sydney, go ahead.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to actually tell Mr. Simfukwe, the previous caller.
I think you're listening to the wrong station.
Shit.
Okay. All right. If you want to call us, 22684 and 0978 895 895. Those are the two numbers you can use to get in touch with us this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm okay.
Yeah. What's your name?
You are talking to Lukulu Voice on the line.
Okay, Lukulu Voice, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Dr. Fundanga, long time, how are you?
Thank you.
Thank you, and Malupenga from PS.
How are you, sir?
Thank you. First from I would like to say that Dr. During my last time, I think our economy was better. We were doing fine, and you could have gone ahead, improved from there. This amount is something else. Okay? Let me tell you something. Like, if I remember the opposition leader at that time, President Hakainde Hichilema, you remember what he used to tell the PF? He told them, don't overborrow. You are overborrowing a lot. It will be difficult for you to pay back. The PF used to be arrogant. He refused. Say, no, we are just on the right course. We know what we are doing. Where are we today? Because of not listening. And I'm coming to the Malupenga yourself. Be truthful of what you are saying. You, as that time when you worked at the Post newspaper, you were siding with PF, with SATA at that time. And we were able to see. And then you are going to say, no, we just did your professional work. How? If that was the case, what happened to Ed Kalungu? When you now start turning against him, what happened? They reduced at the same post. What's the comment? So really, when you cancel yourself first before you cancel others. Because that was not a good way. That was not professional way you used to do. And you used to malign too much of Hakainde Hichilema that you remember, and supporting SATA. But it's all in the opposition. Is that the way to go? Thank you very much.
Okay, Lukulu Voice, thank you very much. Do you want to respond? Maybe.
Thank you, Lukulu Voice. And that is why we are encouraging people to read and write. It is very clear that the Lukulu Voice, which has called in, has not read the book. If he read the book, he was not going to speak as he has spoken. So I invite you to, when you see my book, part 1, it's got 10 chapters. First one, Myth of a Cartel. I'm trying to demystify that. You can read. The second chapter, Reuniting with Wanawasa Once More. The third chapter, which you are talking, which is dealing with the issues we are talking about, is titled SATA, the Post in Love Again. When you read this chapter, you will find the answers to your question. So I don't want to answer or to start reading what is in the book. I can only invite you to get yourself a copy and go straight to chapter 3 in part 1. You will find my position on those issues that you have raised. So let's invest in reading and writing. And then we are going to avoid this issue of busy sharing ignorance.
All right. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Brother. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, sir. What's your name?
You are talking to Uncle Chomba. I'm in the chat.
Uncle Chomba. All right, go ahead. Well, you're live on radio. Go ahead.
Sure. How are you, Mr. Masinga and Mr. Fundanga?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to contribute on Mr. Malupenga's. You said in the preamble at the start of the program that in Zambia, we are people who don't keep records. And I entirely agree with you, Mr. Malupenga. I, for one, have kept some of the Times of Zambia newspapers, way back 1979, 1980, when I was in the late 70s and early 80s. I've kept the newspapers. Then the Prime Minister, I think, Nainza Chona, in 1979, somewhere, even 95 down there. The thing in this country is that why people even don't keep records because the attitude of reading in our country is so poor. Sorry to say that. Even students have interacted with some of the students. They would just go to the library just to find space, not to read most of the volumes that are in the library, but just to just study what is indexed in their syllabus. They don't research. They just get there just to find space. So it's about time that we mentor people about the importance of reading. As the saying goes, that information is extremely essential.
Yeah. All right. So his point essentially. Thank you very much for calling. But his point is essentially that we need to read, which is something that you've been pushing. That we need to read.
Because if you don't read, the answer is right in your face, and you are shooting in totally opposite direction.
Charles, Dr. Fundanga. Charles says, can you please? What's your take on an IMF program? Please guide the nation. At least it's nice to listen to someone who's been there. There's so much misinformation out there. Is there anything around your own opinion? Having served before as Bank of Zambia governor in difficult times, do you have an opinion at all on this IMF program?
Yes, I do have a view, and I think some of the views have even come out in the media. For instance, the diggers, I think we have had quite a good discourse on the IMF program. You recall that one time we even did a letter to the government, the previous government, which was signed by myself and a number of other colleagues like Montes Panda. Basically, an IMF program is good for a country, especially if the country has not been running its affairs properly. Only countries that have failed to run their affairs properly go to the IMF. And they go there in order to seek for financing to help them fill the balance of payments gap that has been created as a result of poor management. Now, the IMF, let me also emphasize, we are shareholders in the International Monetary Fund, in the World Bank, in the African Development Bank. We are owners. So you should not look at it as an evil institution out to get you. You only ask for assistance. Even now, we have asked for assistance. They have not come and said, hey, you better take our medicine or we'll kill you. They don't force us. But if we realize that we could probably be helped to tide over our problems, then we go and ask for assistance from the IMF. And it responds by way of providing advice that, given what you are facing, if you want to get out of this, you better do the following things, and then if we give you assistance, you'll be able to benefit from that assistance. I think this is basically what they do. We have benefited a lot from our association with IMF. If I take you back to when we enjoyed the HIPIC debt relief, that debt relief, which led to cancellation of a lot of the debts of poor countries, was actually spearheaded by the IMF. And to access the debt relief, you had to do certain things to qualify, And when you qualified, they cancelled the debt. Other countries had agreed that they would work within the framework provided by the leadership of the fund, and they cancelled the debt. Now, when we went back into a heavily indebted situation, it is not the IMF, it's ourselves who led to more borrowing. So please don't accuse them for what they've not done. It is us who mismanage, and they just come to help us. And it's us who ask them to help us. If they didn't come, the situation would get even worse. We know of countries where, I'm sure you have been following some of the media, not even in Africa, where they can't even import basic things now because the foreign exchange has run out. It is such things which you should never do. And I think in my commentaries on our relationship with the fund, I've always emphasized that this is our institution. and we should follow their advice. If you don't follow it, then you only have yourself to blame. If I can ask, for instance, when we got the debt relief, was that not a good thing that so much debt could be cancelled, and that following that we were able to fund much of our development from our own little resource mobilization through taxation? We were all rejoicing and were saying, let's continue along this path. Spend what we have, don't spend what we don't have.
I have to ask you. I'm going to make a follow-up. Apologies to everyone who's calling in. But so I've heard this argument that you can, if we taxed people the right way,
yes,
right, then we wouldn't necessarily need an IMF program.
No, we don't.
Yeah. So are we not taxing people the right way? And when I say people, I mean I'm not talking about me. No. No, you leave me. I tax. I'm good. You guys tax me enough. But I mean, like the mines, for example. I mean, let me not hide. It's the mines. Everyone says, the mines are not paying the right tax, etc., etc. If we taxed mines the correct way, would we then need a program? Wouldn't we have enough?
We would not. I think, sometimes let's not exaggerate what we have missed, but certainly the feeling that key foreign exchange earners like the mines are not adequately taxed is a global concern. There is a lot of literature. The other year we were doing some project with some colleagues from Norway, Christian Michelson Institute. We even launched a book at Southern Sun Hotel. It was well publicized. And we were concerned about the fact that some of the major resource exploiters in our countries are not adequately taxed. And also that some of these institutions also are very good tax planners. They know how to take the loopholes. But this issue of evading tax is not only common here, even in some of these developed countries. I'm sure you have heard of some of the very prominent politicians in some countries who don't pay tax at all because they've got good tax planners. So institutions that are charged with the responsibility of collecting tax should be very alert with the latest techniques about avoidance of paying adequate taxation and so forth. Now, obviously, sometimes in our enthusiasm to attract foreign investors, we do give them even the kind of concessions they don't need. I don't see why a mining company should pay less tax than Mr. Malupenga here. Yeah, it doesn't have as much money, but sometimes the rate at which his tax might be higher because he doesn't enjoy the concessions that these big players have. The question we should be asking ourselves is, why do we give them so many concessions? Wouldn't they come here to exploit our copper, even if we didn't give them the concessions? I remember this question, we put it when I led a team of Zimbabweans to Norway to find out how Norway has successfully exploited its hydrocarbons and so forth. And when we asked, they just said, here we have got a tax regime. It may be high, but if somebody wants to come and get our oil and gas, they have to pay the tax. If they don't want, we just show them the way out. We will wait for the next one to come. If they really want, because we have the resource, it is in our ground here. It will wait for somebody ready to deal. It's not like it's either this company or never. There's never been a thing like that. There will always be somebody ready to come and exploit the resources. If we are giving concessions maybe to a group of Zambian miners, I might say, well, give them some concession because they are young. They're young in terms of being an established company, okay? And even if they get the concessions, they are locals. The money will sink into the country. But if you give them to a foreign company, the money gets out of the country and it's lost forever. So these are things which we should not forget. But around this issue of what is the appropriate tax, it's a very controversial one. But I know that the companies are very powerful and they are able to marshal some support. It's not only here, it's everywhere you go. They have this power to extract. Even now that the price of oil has gone up, you are hearing, even some of the developed countries are saying, why can't you extract a little bit from Shell or other companies who are making now super profits and they help the people who are failing to buy bread? So these are issues which a country must face and address in order that we can share the wealth equally.
Okay. All right. Let me take another call. Hello, good morning. I've lost you on that line. Hello, good morning.
Lochi, how are you?
I'm all right, Elvis. How are you?
You always jump to 097, Luchi. Now you use it Luchi. How are you, Luchi?
Very well, thanks, Elvis.
Thank you. Sir, how are you there?
So there are two sirs, Elvis. There's Mr. Malupenga and Dr. Fundanga.
Both of them. How are you, sir?
We're fine, sir. We're fine.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a question. Zambia has got abundant natural resources, starting from minerals, timber, and all these other resources. Why have we failed to raise enough money to sustain our daily issues in Zambia? For instance, Zambia is going to borrow to IMF from IMF. I understand 1.4 billion somewhere there. Can Zambia fail to raise such an amount of money with such abundant resources? Is it that we have got poor leadership, or is it that those who are learned cannot extract enough knowledge from what they have learned to make sure that they extract enough revenue for this country? Then secondly, the issue of CDF. CDF, to me, I think this is a sheer waste of money. How did the Kaunda manage, UNIP, manage to develop this country without dishing out CDF? How did he manage? Because I've seen that CDF now is one of the tools which is used to appease the people, especially those who are in the political arena, those who belong to political parties who are in the ruling government. So I want your answers. Why has Zambia failed to raise enough revenue, especially that we have got enough natural resources? Diamonds, we have got gold.
Okay.
We have
Elvis.
got
Elvis. All right, Elvis.
Luch, I know you want to ask Dr. Fundanga to answer, but I'll pretend to be Luch and control the interview for a moment. In the interest of time, I'll refer the caller to my book, Conversations with Memorable Personalities, conversation number 38, featuring Dr. Caleb Fundanga. And the title, It is a Scandal for Zambia to be Poor. It's on page 552. So if you go to this page, you will find answers to the question that you have raised.
Okay.
I hand over to my co-presenter.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you? How are you, Richie?
I'm all right. Just hold on, sir. Just hold on. I'll come back to you, Dr. Fundanga. Let me just pick this one up. Go ahead, sir. What's your name?
Yeah, you are talking to Morgan.
Yes, Morgan. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Fundanga. The others. For me, to grow this economy, it's our motto. And our motto, we stand the same, that we need to grow economy. And the economy is a pillar to bring down all commodities so that a poor person in compound should eat 3 times a day. And why we are continue talking about economy, when we look at economy, a dollar goes down, inflation rate goes down, a poor person will buy at goods at a cheaper price. As long as the economy goes down, the poor will suffer. Even a rich person, to buy a fuel, we have 10 tractors at a farm. How much are you going to fill up with those tractors? So for me, what we need to do, we have got a lot of natural resources in our country. We talk about copper. We talk about these which we have tourism. We have got so many wildlife and so many Victoria Falls and other falls, Shimba Falls, to attract more tourism, to bring more income in our country, agriculture sector.
Yeah. So Morgan, sorry, Morgan, I had to cut you off, but I'm also running out of time. But his essential point is very similar to Elvis's, Dr. Fundanga, that we've got all these resources. Why aren't we able to
do the right thing? I don't know. Obviously, there are many reasons. Our development strategy. There are certain countries where they've just said, okay, our priority will be agriculture for the next 5 years. They pump in money there, they train the people and so forth, and you could see the result. If those of you who have read Japanese economic development, they had priorities. I was talking of earlier on how savings from the postal bank could go to the Japan Development Bank. When it went there, they had priorities. If they wanted to produce trucks, the development bank would only give loans for trucks. If you want to produce a car, I was told Honda wanted to produce a car. They said, we are not preventing you, but find your own money. Because the priority of government is this. So if we could prioritize, it is possible that we could have some impact on certain key sectors within a certain... You can't do everything under the sun. So if you think that electricity is the priority, do it. Maybe 2-3 years all investment is directed there, you forget it's no longer a problem. In most countries they've done that, but I think here we want to do everything at the same time. So probably that's the problem. But let me talk about CDF because it has been raised. I've heard it raised several times. For me, I think CDF is very revolutionary in terms of decentralization of expenditure. In the past, we have had these issues about we are going to decentralize, but money remained controlled in Lusaka, and it never trickled down to the bottom. What the government has done today in saying so much, there was going to be a huge increase in CDF going to each constituency, is revolutionary to a large extent. Here we are talking about the people out there in the periphery not having money. But the government has said, we'll now give you money and you see what you can do. I have said, I'm personally quite happy. I know people have been raising issues about they are just going to steal the money. But you had people in Lusaka stealing your money all the time anyway. So what is wrong about some villager also participating in the sharing of public money? You never complained when they were stealing billions from Lusaka. So let's have confidence in ourselves that even the villager has got the brains to decide that I want to have this credit or path at least graded. But the comments are here about they are just going to steal. They are going to steal. They are so negative and so demeaning to our people in the rural areas, because these are the people who for the first time can sit down and discuss how to spend 25 million. Shouldn't we be celebrating that rather than belittling our own brothers and sisters who are in the rural areas? They have got the brains and they can prioritize what they want to spend on. But let us help them also, so that if they don't have the skills on how to decide, I think some training has been going on. And this money has just been released probably, but let us not be negative. This is new. What we have been doing in the past has not delivered the development we want. So why don't you give this a try? Maybe next year if we see that it works better, give them 100 million to decide, so that even the people in the very remote parts of Kabompo can also have a chance to spend 100 million. If they steal it, we can say, well, there will be penalties. If you steal, you don't get the next allocation. We subtract by the amount you have stolen. Put some carrot and stick so that communities can start looking at these issues more positively rather than always being classified as people who are going to steal. We have never condemned the stealers in Lusaka. But you want to start condemning people who have not even proved that they can steal. So give them a chance.
This is from Dr. Hapompwe. It says, just to congratulate Mr. Malupenga on his intellectual display in his latest publication. I'm a beneficiary of his book, and I would encourage as many Zambians as possible to acquire it so that we can discuss national issues from an informed position. Amos, I'm proud of you as my former student as well. Dr. Fundanga, you speak objectively on national matters that affect us. Keep up rendering your professional expertise to the policymakers and political leaders, and I'm sure we'll be better one day as a country. That's from Dr. Hapompwe. Mr. Piri Indola says, actually, before I go to Mr. Piri, I want to ask this from Lundazi Voice. He says, could Dr. Fundanga kindly share his experience when he experienced political interference in the execution of Bank of Zambia operations during his tenure as governor? Were there any at all?
Not really. I think part of what we did, I must also say credit should go to President Monawasa. When I first came from West Africa to see him, I went to State House, and he told me, if you do something which is professionally correct, I will not interfere with you. And I can tell you, up to his death, he never interfered with what we were doing. I could go and have sometimes lengthy discussions with him, sometimes going up to midnight. The two of us were talking, he's asking me questions, and I'm also asking him questions and pleading for him to give us a hand in doing what we thought was right. And of course we did a lot of reforms, which I'm sure if we had a political leadership which was active in interfering, they would have long told us, stop that nonsense. But they allowed us, and that's how we did the little that we did. Not that we did the best, but our little effort was even recognized internationally. That's perhaps in Zambia we don't appreciate, but internationally we were recognized as having done something positive for our economy at that time.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Let's join this line. 226-841-0978-895-895. If you want to call us, we'll see if we can take one or two calls before we end. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Dr. Proud.
Mr. Fundanga, good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Fundanga.
Now you are
proud.
We are given a doctorate.
I want to also what you have done, Mr. Fundanga. Finance Minister also Musokoto to come in that radio. Yesterday you hear Minister of Commerce says we have managed to bring kwacha down from 22 to 17. But sugar commodity, I remember the time when we were buying it, it was a 75 cafe sugar and mazapuka. Now is 190. The trade king is not reducing price. Go and visit those people. The more Commerce Minister has done to go and talk to people, businessmen in Copper Belt. So we want a finance minister, including bank governor right now. The more they are making budget rules, they should not only make a budget when they are one. They should come and consult us. How much it can do? We are still buying can do at the 3 quarters. Salad is too somewhat. But the government has managed to surprise because of this issue. In the same way we had this Kanjanji from Mateo. We want also at corruption to go and invest. If we got our own transport, we can point. No, we are going to go to.
Okay, Proud. All right, Proud. So, Dr. Fundanga, here's the question. I think this is the question that he was trying to ask. It's on the cost of living, and he's talking about prices are on the rise, and yet people talk about the exchange rate being a little better than it was a couple of months ago, inflation being better than it was a couple of months ago. Are there machinations that government can do to force those who run these stores to reduce their prices?
No, if we start using force, we go back to price controls. I think in the marketplace, what forces people to behave themselves is the availability of more goods. If we are talking of tomatoes, I know for instance onions, we don't have the appropriate onions in supermarkets and so forth now. In a situation like this, it's very difficult to expect that the price of onions will go down. But if we can flood the market with good onions and so forth, the price will naturally go. There is no seller who wants to just hold on to a commodity for weeks and weeks. They want to realize value quickly in order that they can buy some more. So what you see, some of these pressures that we are seeing now as the result of supply bottlenecks. If we can address those, we will find. If you look, there are some commodities whose price has remained stable for quite some time, like bread, for instance, because there is a lot of bread, different types of bread you can choose from. So there has been a relative stability. You can still buy a loaf of bread at less than 10 kwacha in some of these supermarkets, and it has been like that for some time. So glad that inflation is coming down, and that the exchange rate also is stabilizing, but don't expect immediate results. We always say that prices are more flexible upward and very, very rigid coming downwards. It takes some time before people can start to see that it is folly to continue remaining with the high prices when others now lowering prices. And those are the true market forces which we should try to encourage, because when people start to bring down prices because they can see that the situation on the ground has changed, you have a real reduction in prices. But if you decree that the price will come down, it won't. And if you insist, it will just, the goods will go underground. And then we have got a lot of experience from countries in the region where attempts have been made to fix prices, and the result is very disastrous.
Zimbabwe, for example. Mr. Malupenga, someone says, are you doing any mentoring and succession plan for future writers so that we can have more conversations written down and our history is written down instead of someone else coming in to write our history?
I would like to do that, but I would rather be approached than offer myself. Okay. You know, sometimes in this country we tend to be more petty. If I offered and say, no, I'm doing mentorship here, and they'll say, so I'm going to catch now. Who is he? You know, I'm available right now. I'm less free. As you know, I'm no longer in government, so I have more time on my hands.
You're less free. More free.
More free. Yeah,
more
Doc,
free.
Yeah. I am more free. Because the government office which kept me busy, I'm no longer holding that, so we can interact in that in that regard. So I'll be available for those who think I've got something to share. I'll be more than glad or willing to share. But quickly, let me say thanks to Dr. Apompwe, my former lecturer at Yunza GSB, where we did an MBA program, and I'm sure he remembers the kind of conversations we used to. It was a very lively class, a lot of intellectual discourse, and thank you, Doc, for following the program, and I hope I've not embarrassed you.
So there are lots of questions about people asking where they can get the book and how much it is. So do you want to tell us where people can get the book from, Conversations with Memorable Personalities, how much it is? Someone also says they want to have it signed. How is that possible?
Yeah, if you go to our Facebook page, titled after the title of the book, Conversations with Memorable Personalities, you'll find all that information there. The book is going for 700 kwacha each. You can get it in Bookworld. You can get it in a shop at Crossroads Mall, Kablonga Woodlands. The shop is called Kazoa Collections. But more easily, you can just go to our Facebook page. You'll find there are 3 mobile numbers there. When you make payment in there, we can deliver within Lusaka, wherever you are. In fact, that is even the easiest. A lot of people have appreciated that service, and thanks to the advancement in the technology and all. So once you make the payment through the mobile platforms, you add 20 kwacha for the withdrawal, and then the book will be delivered right at your destination. But you'll have to pay the biker because they are using the motorbike, 40 kwacha for delivery. Okay. It will save you time as well as fuel to drive to these. Those who would want me to sign their books, I would be glad to do that. And my son was giving me an idea which one to grab. That weekends I can go at Mandayu or any of the shopping malls, just set up a small table, and then those who want me to sign, they can come by and I sign. So that's how we intend to proceed. Okay.
There is, I need to read this for Dr. Fundanga. In my world, when I hear the title Bank of Zambia, this is a text, by the way. When I hear the title Bank of Zambia Governor, there's only one name that pops up, Caleb Fundanga. We also wrote and learnt about you in school, sir, because you are a force to reckon with. And so he or she just wants to say thank you very much. Mr. Malupenga as well, there's a text, there's a message as well in here. Looking forward to reading your book too as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for that compliment.
There's one question that popped up. I'm surprised it didn't come up earlier, but it came up, and I have to ask you because it's popped up. And you can tell me if you don't want to answer, it's fine. But he says, this is from Stumbergo, I'd like to find out from Mr. Malupenga if it was correct or if it happened that the internet was blocked during the elections. I told you I would have been surprised.
No. I can answer it.
Yeah.
You see, that's why I was saying we need to invest a lot of time in reading and writing. we are quick to share rumors, gossip, and all that. And I would not go into the nitty-gritties in terms of providing I just want to answer broadly that government operates in a certain way. And you may not fully understand until you get in there. And so I've heard a lot of people talk about how I switch. No, this one is switched off the internet. This one did this. And I can't comment, unfortunately, in terms of the actual positions, because as you know, I'm bound by the oath of office and all that. But I want to believe that even those who are in government today, I'm sure they are looking at certain issues from a different perspective after arriving in there and seeing certain things in this way or that way.
Okay. Did you enjoy your time in government?
Yes, I did, very much.
Okay. All right. Dr. Fundanga, thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of Let the People Talk. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, and also to all those who asked questions. I hope you we endeavored to answer them honestly.
Do you think we'll ever reach the levels that... and it's an impossible question to answer. But I remember when I first started radio, I would control Uncle Frank Mutubela, who used to do this program, and there would be people who would call and say, we can be like Singapore. We were at the same level in I can't remember what year it was, but at some point we were at the same level, but look where they are. Do you think we'll ever get to that level?
Well, we can. It just requires a lot of discipline, and I'm sure we are now also learning a lot. There are a number of institutions from Singapore that are coming over here. The other month I had quite a good discussion, and I'm hoping that they are coming. And I promised that I would organize a forum through my institute so that they can speak to those who want to hear the Singapore story. But I think it's not so much listening to a good story, but our commitment to doing the correct things. We certainly shouldn't be where we are now. There are many countries in Asia, even in South Korea, Singapore, whatever. These countries were probably even slightly lower than us in 1964. But they took a path which enabled them to grow. And they were not destroying wealth the way we have been destroying wealth here. They are not allowing others to come and, skim off our wealth and take it away. So all those things are things that we should learn to do. Obviously, some people have said part of the problem here is that there isn't any ideology to development. I don't know whether that is a very important issue because the right things are the same, whether you want to be a communist or a capitalist or whatever. If they say don't steal, it's a bad thing whether it's in a communist state or not. If they say don't overspend, it's the same language that you have everywhere. So it's the doing of those things, the right things, that helps countries to develop.
Okay.
Now, we need to be committed to that. The sad thing, I must also say that in spite of our different experiences in Africa, we haven't had an African country that has broken off into developed country status, like higher income. You have seen, for instance, when we talk of Zambia during our time, we moved to lower middle class status. But there has been a slippage now. We have gone back to lower income status. We have had other neighboring countries here that have had middle income, but they've never really shot to higher income status. I think when we start having a few countries in Africa moving into higher income status, probably that's when we'll all wake up to say, oh, it is possible. But so far, everybody thinks like all African countries are condemned. Either you are in the middle income or you are low income. I don't think this really should be the case. I believe strongly that a lot of our countries can break into high income status if only we did the right thing.
Okay. I don't want to ask you a policy question as chair of ZRA, but I'm going to make a request because I had some people from the Revenue Authority on Friday, and we were having a conversation around rental income. And this lady called in towards the very end of the program, and she was talking about how much we're taxed as citizens. And I promised myself that if I ever speak to anybody else from a very high up from the ZRA, I would mention this to them. So it's just the next sitting to have a conversation around how much tax people are being taxed. Whether there's a way of reducing that tax so that people don't feel like at every point they're making, and it's not just tax, because obviously you have your big, pay as you earn tax, that's fine, but then you've also got these payments that you make, road tax, for example, and all these other areas where you're paying, and that contributes to lessening of what people have. And I don't know whether there is a conversation to be had in your next meeting at ZRA.
I think we should have a conversation. As I said, my hope is that we can have open forums on tax issues, because it's so important. If we want to develop, we've got to fund our development. And I don't think we can develop by just praying that some developed countries can give us so much. So we need that. But there is also another thing which I learned in Japan, because you see, submissions which people make to institutions like ZRA, they must be based on proper information. And in some countries like Japan, they have the Ministry of Finance have got a department which actually licenses accountants. The big companies, they go to the big five to do their audits. But what about the others? Even if we want to have marketeers to be paying tax, they must submit proper documents to the Revenue Authority, which show exactly how much they've earned, what their expenses are, and so forth. And those who assist them, they are also licensed by the Ministry of Finance today. So I dream of a situation where we can have so many people who assist people to make their proper submissions for tax assessment purposes, so that people are not unfairly treated, and they can also be proud when they contribute towards, in some countries people are very proud that we pay tax and this is what we get. I can give you an example if you have the time. We had
I have a few seconds.
Ambassador of Norway who was here, whom I know very well. Sometimes we exchange some papers, and he recently posted something on his Facebook. He was just by a machine, big machine in a hospital. He said, this machine saved my life and it cost millions. And I was treated free of charge, thanks to the Norwegian taxpayer. I would be happy one day if we can say, yes, I went to UTH, I was treated with a very sophisticated machine, thanks to the Zambian taxpayer. That will be the time. But we are far from it, and I think the education we need is for everybody to be proud that they are paying tax. But this comes when you know that your tax is not being abused by somebody else. If you have seen your money going to somebody else's pocket, I'm not sure you're going to be a proud taxpayer, are you?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I feel guilty now because I'm not very proud to be a taxpayer. I want all that money to myself.
Yeah.
Mr. Malupenga, anything lastly you want to add before I let you go? And I'll also just let you know there's a gentleman who sent me a Twitter follower of mine. His name is, his Twitter handle is Z Kamalengo, but his real name is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but his real name, I'll say his first name, is Wamulume. You signed a copy of his book, and he just sent me a picture. And he said, this one is a gem. Thank you very much, Mr. Malupenga.
Good feedback, Mr. Wamulume. Thank you.
So anything lastly you want to add?
Well, just to encourage people to reach out for the conversations. The feedback from Mr. Wamulume there, he says this book is a gem. Discover that gem by digging for it. No gems, you don't just find them on the surface. Dr. Fundanga, just to thank him again for coming along, and I think I have achieved the objective of expanding the narrative and shifting from the political to economic discussions, and I like the conversation that we've had with the listeners, colleagues in the media. Let's expand. The title of the conversation for Dr. Fundanga in this book is "It's a Scandal for Zambia to be Poor," and Dr. Fundanga, from this conversation, he has given us another food for thought. Why is it that as Zambians we are fighting to run the Black Mountain and not to run a mine? So these are the issues that we should consume our time instead of spending so much time on Facebook sharing gossip, rumor mongering, truths and half-truths and lies. So lastly, to thank you, Luchi, for this platform. And time was not sufficient. It can never be enough. And I hope that I can have more interactions with colleagues in the media for us just to expand on these conversations. And the narrative for our agenda setting.
Thank you very much to the both of you. And that is today's edition of Let the People Talk. Thank you very much indeed for listening. Have a wonderful Tuesday.
This has been Let the People Talk. Let the People Talk. Join us again every Tuesday and Fridays at 09 hours for another live intriguing discussion of various issues of national interest on Radio Phoenix, the station of the nation. The station of the nation.
Global news updates are brought to you by the Zambia National Building Society, ZNBS.